أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this third and final episode of this series, in which we address the objections of this individual about the narrations, the authentic narrations that he presented from Shia sources about the martyrdom of Fatima Zahra salamun alayha.
What I find interesting is after he quotes the report, he mentions Rouhani's view in regards to Mufaddal bin Umar, who's a very notorious character in Shia books, Shia Jali works. So here's a statement about Mufaddal bin Umar. And this statement, you see, here's the thing. You're putting forward the statement of Sayyid al-Rouhani. I'm putting to you the statement of the Imam, all right? Now, the Imam says, this is Ja'far al-Sadiq, he says, go to al-Mufaddal. He's saying to Ismail bin Jabir, he says, go to al-Mufaddal and tell him, Ya kafir, ya mushrik. What do you want with my son? Do you want to get him killed? Do you want to kill him? Now, I think, in my opinion, wallahu a'lam, the opinion or the statement of Ja'far al-Sadiq weighs just a little bit more than a Sayyid al-Rouhani's view. Of course, this isn't just, I'm not just basing my opinion on what Ja'far al-Sadiq says. We even have major Shi'i scholars of Rajal, like Najashi, saying that Mufaddal bin Umar is someone that we should pay no attention to. He's weakened severely. All right, let's carry on. Is that it? Is that actually? I do think that's it.
So this third objection was about the narration that we presented from Mufaddal ibn Umar, and this individual tried to weaken Mufaddal ibn Umar by putting the opinion of Sayyid al-Rouhani regarding Mufaddal, who considers him a trustworthy narrator, against what has been narrated through one narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He actually dismisses the fact that Sayyid al-Rouhani is actually also basing his opinion on narrations, and says that because Mufaddal ibn Umar is trustworthy, because there are a lot of narrations in Rijal al-Kashi, for example, in his praise. And we present also some other scholars who have said the same thing. So it's not Sayyid al-Rouhani's opinion against Imam Sadiq. It's a matter of putting all these narrations which are about Mufaddal ibn Umar and make up your mind. Just not pick one narration out of all these and supersede that over everything that there is about Mufaddal. And the narration is basically, here we see Sheikh Noor al-Tabarsi from Rijal al-Kashi. There are basically two narrations with the same content, slightly different chains of narrators, in which Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says to his companion Ismail ibn Jabir to go to Mufaddal and tell him, Ya kafir, ya mushrik, what do you want from my son? Do you want to kill him and endanger his life, referring to his son Ismail, as we see in this narration. Basically, this narration has two possibilities. So the first possibility is that Imam Sadiq actually calls him kafir mushrik. The second possibility is that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is using taqiyya to protect the life of his son Ismail and also Mufaddal himself, which was very often the case especially at the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, that he used to at times rebuke his companions, his very famous close companions, publicly to protect their lives. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam actually clarifies this also to his companions, that I'm doing this to protect your lives at times. If you hear something about this, don't be sad, because I'm just doing this publicly to protect you from persecution. Sayeda Hui, for example, quotes in which Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is sending a message to Zurara, for example, and tells him that at times when I criticize you or rebuke you, it's a means of me protecting you from our enemies, because whoever we want to get close to us, they want to hurt them, they want to kill them, they want to persecute them just to hurt us by that. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says to Zurara in this example that this is because you have become very known and famous to be of our close companions and so on. So by that you have become somebody whom the people, the others, the opponents, the enemies are considering a means of rebuke and hatred. And I'm doing this, I'm rebuking you and criticizing you publicly to protect you, to protect your life, and to protect you from their evil. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam gives a Quranic verse where it mentions the story about Khidr alayhi salam, in which Musa alayhi salam accompanied him in his journey. And at one occasion, Khidr alayhi salam destroyed parts of a ship that they were riding. And Musa alayhi salam said, "What are you doing? You're destroying this ship and we're riding it. Why are you doing this to the owner of the ship?" And later on, it turns out that he was doing that to protect the ship because there was an oppressive king in that area who would take away every good ship that he could find. And in this case, because some parts of it was destroyed, he did not take away that ship. And by that, he protected, actually, Khizr alayhi salam protected that ship from being stolen or being taken away. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam applies the same example to his companions, that he is rebuking them, publicly criticizing his companions, to give the message to the enemies that these are not my friends, right? Just to protect them, because whoever was friends to the family of the Prophet and were around them, they would follow those people and hurt those people by any means possible. And Sayeda Khoury says that this clear, authentic narration shows that Imam Sadiq at times when he used to hurt or rebuke or criticize his companions like Zurara and his peers, it was due to taqiyya and to protect their lives. So there is no surprise if Imam Sadiq in that example that we saw about Mufaddal, that he used the same way. What clarifies this even better is another authentic narration about Mufaddal himself, in which Imam Sadiq actually interestingly is sending someone to convey his condolences to Mufaddal because Imam Sadiq's son died, Ismail, because Ismail and Mufaddal were close friends apparently. So Imam Sadiq sent someone to send condolences due to death of Ismail and said that we're saddened by the death of Ismail and we remain patient, and you should remain patient as well, like we did. And we wanted something and Allah wanted something else, and we submitted to what Allah wanted for Ismail, which actually shows that the first narration, in both of its possibilities, even if that first narration was in reality the case that Imam Sadiq called Mufaddal Kafir Mushrik, this narration solves that and shows us that at least Imam Sadiq alayhi salam had forgiven Mufaddal. Or the second possibility, which we said that first narration could be due to taqiyya, that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was protecting his son or Mufaddal's and his own son's life. This would also solve that example as well. So in any case, because this comes after that, it solves both cases. If someone says, how could this be taqiyya when Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is calling Mufaddal ya kafir ya mushrik? Well, in the Islamic literature, there is a concept called ta'arid or tawriya. And ta'arid or tawriya is a concept in which words can have double meanings, and the person who says that could mean something different in his intention than what the people who listen to and hear that understand from that word. And this is a very famous concept, and there is no disagreement about it. So it's an accepted concept from Quran and from Sunnah and among scholars. I'm not going to go deep into that topic. There are entire chapters about it in Sahih Bukhari, in their books, and there are scholars have talked about it in their books. It's an accepted concept, and it doesn't need to be discussed here in this video, in this short video, with all the details. I'm just mentioning the words ta'arid or ma'arid and tawriya, which is the equivalent of equivocation or double speech or indirect speech in English. And actually, scholars have put all these narrations about Mufaddal, like the best example, we have Sayed al-Khoury himself in his book Mu'jam al-Rijal. After analyzing all these narrations, about Mufaddal, he comes to the conclusion that Mufaddal was a great companion of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and he was a trustworthy narrator. So in either of those both cases, the objection against Mufaddal ibn Umar by that narration is invalid, and so the narration is authentic. So the objections against all three narrations that we presented, all of them are invalid, and we proved that there are authentic narrations authenticated by our scholars about the martyrdom of Fatima al-Zahra salamun alayha in our books. And these were just examples. There are other authentic narrations as well about the martyrdom of Fatima al-Zahra salamun alayha that we did not present. We just wanted to mention some examples of those authenticated narrations, and our goal was to present the tawatur of this fact. But let's go to the last part of his video where it gets even more interesting.
Here's a report, subhanAllah, I came across not too long ago. This is from Al-Kafi, and this is an authentic hadith. And check out what it says. This report comes through Ali ibn Ibrahim from his father, from Ibn Abi Umair, from Hisham bin Salim. It has been narrated from Abu Abdullah that he said, that I heard him saying, Fatima lived after her father for 75 days. So Abu Bakr comes to power, they attack the house of Fatima, and then she dies 75 days later. Something doesn't make sense. If she's going to die immediately, not 75 days later. Let's carry on. Fatima lived after her father for 75 days, not being seen smiling or laughing. She would come to the graves of the martyrs twice during every Friday, Monday and Thursday, and she would be saying, over there was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and over there were the polytheists. To give you guys more of a context, what's meant here is she would actually go to the graves of the shuhada of Uhud, okay? 4 times, twice on Friday. Do you know how far away the graves of Shuhada Uhud are? It's about an hour and 15 minutes away. That's if you're walking. That's using Google Maps. And no, that's not something you'd do if you had a broken rib. You wouldn't go to the graves 4 times a week. Imagine someone with a broken rib going to the graves of the Shuhada 4 times a week and telling people that's where the Prophet peace be upon him was, and that's where the mushrikeen were. Does that make sense? It doesn't seem like those are the actions of someone that's on the verge of death. Those actions seem to be the actions of someone who's perfectly healthy. In any case, Ya Shia, this video isn't about tashayyu' being false. It's not about the imama being false. Even though those are opinions that I hold, I do understand why you hold those views. This video is about the unjustified belief that Fatima was killed. It conflicts with reason. We know that Ali pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr after Fatima passed away. We know that in the Khilafah of Umar, Ali gave his daughter to Umar bin Khattab. We know that Umar, when he was on the deathbed, appointed Ali as a possible successor to the throne and to rule the Muslim Ummah. Does that seem to be the actions of someone who just killed his wife a few years earlier? Come on, guys, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't have much more to say. May Allah guide you guys to the haqq. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sincerely wish you guys all the best. And no funny clips at the end. This is a sincere call to you guys. May Allah guide you. Assalamu alaikum.
So he made a few assumptions using this narration from Al-Kafi. Let's call this right now assumptions, not deceptions or mistakes or lies. You can make up your mind after we point out all those points. But let's see. The first point that he made is that he put the duration of these visits 75 days. And that is not what the narration says.
Comes to power, they attack the house of Fatima, and then she dies 75 days later. Something doesn't make sense. If she's going to...
The narration says she died 75 days after the Prophet, not after the attack. So that's the first assumption, which is wrong. and is not in the narration. And the attack actually did not happen according to the sources that we presented. And if you combine all those things, happened within first few weeks. An exact date has not been mentioned, but it's from all these evidences, you see that it happened during the first few weeks. So it was not on the day that the Prophet passed away. The second assumption that he made was that Fatima sallallahu alaihi visited the qubur of Shuhada of Uhud 4 times a week. And he emphasized on the 4 times a week, which is another mistake. Let's call it simply mistake and not a lie.
Actually go to the graves of the Shuhada of Uhud, okay? 3 times a week. Excuse me, 4 times, twice on Friday. Do you know how far away the graves of Shuhada Uhud are? It's about...
The narration says مرتين في كل جمعة, which means during each Friday twice. From this Friday to the next Friday twice. And then specifies the days, Mondays and Thursdays. So it's not 4 times a week, not twice in Fridays, once in Monday, once on Thursday, but in a week, in an entire week, twice. And that is on Mondays and Thursdays. This is actually clear from the context. It's very strange from a native Arabic speaker to make that kind of mistake. And funny enough, we have the same exact wording for narrations from their books. Here in Sahih Muslim, for example, it's talking about presentation of the deeds of people to Allah. The translation here says twice every week on Mondays and Thursdays. So it's twice a week. And the wording in Arabic is the exact same thing that we have in that narration from Al-Kafi. في كل جمعة مرتين يوم الاثنين ويوم الخميس. Within a week, twice, and the days are Mondays and Thursdays. And their scholars actually also explain why this expression is used to refer to a week. But I don't want to jump to that, but it's very clear. It's something that is well known among their scholars, and their shurrah have also spoken about it and some explicitly mentioned the reasoning. The other thing that he assumed is that she went there after the attack, and the narration does not say that, after her ribs were broken. The narration doesn't say that. The narration says that she used to go there, and the narration also does not say that she used to go all these 75 days there. So it could be that she went there a few weeks, it could be before the attack, or it could be after the attack. But in either of those cases, the narration doesn't say that. So the assumption needs other proof to back it up. The other point is that he claimed or assumed that she used to walk there, just 1 hour, 15 minutes of walk, and then come back. And the narration doesn't say that. How do you know? How do you know that she used to walk there? The common means of transport for such distances back then was something different. There were mules that they used for that, camels, donkeys, and horses, and so on and so forth. So the narration doesn't say that she used to walk there. The narration doesn't say anything about those things. So this other assumption that he made to show it that this is very unlikely or impossible is not there. And there is a huge difference when you're injured and you walk by yourself, in contrary to be transported by one of those means that I mentioned. And this just shows the desperation of these people to cling to any kind of narration that they find to make objections against this event of martyrdom of Fatima Zahra Salamun alaiha. So every single assumption that he made based on this narration is not there. It's not there.
Video is about the unjustified belief that Fatima was killed. It conflicts with reason. We know that Ali pledged allegiance to Abu Bakr after Fatima passed away. We know that in the Khilaf of Umar, Ali gave his daughter to Umar bin Khattab. We know that Umar, when he was on the deathbed, appointed Ali as a possible successor to the throne and to rule the Muslim Ummah. Does that seem to be the actions of someone who just killed his wife a few years earlier? Come on, guys, it just doesn't make any sense.
As about bay'ah, or allegiance to Abu Bakr, we already mentioned the circumstances of how bay'ah was taken for Abu Bakr. So that's also another invalid argument to prove any kind of friendship or good relations between Abu Bakr, Umar, and Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. And again, the usual recycled arguments about marriage of the daughter of Amir al-Mu'minin to Umar. Without going into details, the very simple argument against that argument is Quran. In Quran, Lut alayhi salam offered his daughters to his people when they attacked his house. And his people were kuffar, gay rapists. And Lut alayhi salam offered his daughters for marriage to them. So does this prove anything good about those people or any kind of friendship between Prophet Lut alayhi salam and those people? No. So this argument is from the root invalid. The other argument that Omar put Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam in the Shura to be elected as one of the 6 guys. Any intelligent person who reads that narrative and the entire events and resources about that comes to the conclusion that the arrangement that Omar did was intentionally against Amir al-Mu'minin. So he put Amir al-Mu'minin for political reasons into that council, but he arranged it in a way so that he will never be elected as a leader. So that argument does not also prove any kind of friendship between the two. And actually, it's strange to leave narrations like in say, Muslim, where Amir al-Mu'minin calls Umar and Abu Bakr Kadhiban, Athaman, Ghadran, Kha'inan, and cling to such arguments. So be sincere with yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.